Hi all, Christina Pulver here from BYU volleyball, and I'm sitting with Associate Head Coach David Hyte from Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. Thanks so much for taking the time today. How are you and the
Absolutely.
how are you and the family doing?
Family is great. I'm great. My wife just had a baby 3 weeks ago,
Yes, congrats.
and super exciting, a boy. And then we have a 3-year-old girl. The 3-year-old girl is actually the one that's a little bit more difficult to to handle right now, but it's great. It's good being a dad and being a husband first at this time, and it's fun.
Yeah, kind of a special, unforeseen blessing to be able to stay home with her and spend so much time and acclimating. It must have been crazy having to get in and out of or get it to the hospital through all this stage, huh?
Yeah, so well, it's probably been a big blessing for my wife being able to help her out. Yesterday, she had a diaper explosion that I was able to run down from the upstairs office and help her out with. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. We had he had some bilirubin high numbers, so we had to run to the hospital every day to get him checked after he went home, and so we went back 5 or 6 times. But he's good.
Well, we thought this would be a fun time to just get to know more about BYU as a program and more about, the staff. So why don't let's start with you. Take us through your
Yeah.
volleyball journey and how you ended up at BYU.
Yeah, so I am originally from Las Vegas. We were fortunate to have men's, or I should say boys volleyball at high school. And so when I got cut from my high school basketball team, I needed a sport, so I didn't have to take PE the next year. And so I was like, oh, I'll try volleyball. And so I got into volleyball. Then I graduated. I played at BYU. And then I was done in 2004. I got into just everyday working. I was working at with a website, and then Jason Watson, who's currently at Arkansas, called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to come and help out with the team in our practices?" And that was in 2007, the fall of 2007. I was like, "Sure, I'd love to." So I started helping out, and I just fell in love with coaching. And so I decided to switch over, spent a semester with Beth at Utah before I became a full-time head coach up at Idaho State. And that was awesome. Loved it. It was fun. Spent 4 years there, went to the University of Houston for 2 years, and then came back to BYU as a coach 6 years ago, first with Sean Olmstead when he was the head coach in 2014. We were actually teammates.
Cool.
So that was fun to kind of reunite. And then he switched over to the men's program, and Heather got hired on as the head coach, and she kept me on. So that's kind of my volleyball story. I've been here 6 years and have loved it.
Yeah, I mean, and in those 6 years, you've won the West Coast Conference titles 5 times, been to the NCAA's all 6 seasons. I mean, including the Sweet 16 or further 5 times. How have you as a staff established such a successful culture, winning program?
Culture is a big part of what any successful team does, and we understand that as a coaching staff. And so we try really hard to create a culture and to protect it and maintain it. And that, takes a lot of good leaders within the team. And so we've been fortunate to have some good players, good leaders that have been helping out with our culture. But the culture does help us a ton in what we're trying to do. We can, ask them to do things, but it's really the culture and their beliefs within themselves that get them to actually change and do these things. But it's been fun to watch. As you mentioned, in the last, 6 years, we've been to 2 Final Fours and have been relatively successful in our conferences. And so we're pretty fortunate, and Heather's done a good job with implementing our culture.
Yeah, what's it like coaching with Heather?
You could also ask it this way: what's the best, or what's it like to coach with the best coach in the country?
There you go.
She's amazing. She's an amazing leader. So as a coach, a colleague, I'm fortunate to learn and to, she allows me to be myself and to coach. And so that's awesome. And then as a player, every single day when they, leave practice, they feel that they've done their best, that they've emptied the tank. And that's such a good feeling. And a lot of it is because of Heather.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What do you think is the number one thing you bring to the table with coaching? That you've coached for many years, had head coaching experiences. Now, congratulations on the associate head coach position.
Thank you.
What do you feel you add the most to the staff?
I have a passion for the game. I have a passion for volleyball. And I hope it shows that, my hard work can be an example to those around. But I have a passion for, building and for creating. And, that includes relationships, which is awesome. And I'm competitive. And so that's, that. And so I have this passion. The way I coach, I try to be, hold kids accountable, but, I do it in a way that after, I may talk with them and teach them, that they feel growth and motivated, and good.
Yeah, you're a middle blocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does Heather have you specifically work with the middle blockers, or do you guys rotate around with different positions? Tell us a little bit about how that works.
We all work with everyone, because obviously if we're working on just a certain skill, we be comfortable with coaching it. And Heather, feels comfortable in both Johnny and I doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are responsibilities. There are some organizations. So when we do have, breakouts with toolbox, I am with the middles. Johnny is with the pins, and Heather's with the setters. And so I do work with a lot of the middles as far as offensively. And then I also do a lot with the blocking.
Okay.
Just all the front row players and blocking, defensive systems. Those are probably the two main things that you'll hear my voice in a lot. But at the same time, we coach everything.
Okay, awesome. So, we got to talk about the Smith Fieldhouse. It is one of the most intimidating gyms, and I think probably one of the most difficult gyms for opponents to be successful in. I got to go, my daughter played first round NCAAs, and, I remember taking that picture where it's like all blue, and then we had this little teeny corner of red. It was the loudest experience of my life. So let's talk about that.
Maybe I'm biased. It is the best place to play. I've played here, I've coached here, and I've played other places and coached other places, and it's amazing. You have anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 fans, depending on what the fire code felt for that day, for that night. And it gets loud, and then the fans, we get them as close to the court as we can. Obviously we still create room for them to play, but usually right where girls want to get to serve is where our barrier is for our fans. And they get, I would like to think that they're nice and considerate, but they'll get in their ears. But it's an amazing place to play. We have an amazing fan base. It's pretty special. And as you mentioned, sometimes it gets so loud that, we're screaming and they still can't really hear us, trying to let them know, hey, this is what the play that they're running or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just being an athlete at BYU, what a proud and just amazing group and unified, group of ladies specifically on your volleyball team. It's been awesome. Our Forts 1 alumni McKenna Miller, to see her friendship with Mary Lake over the years, and when you watch your team play, there's just so many smiles, and the taps on the shoulder. You can see such a bond that they have. How is that created, that sisterhood amongst the athletes? And it's true, I think, with most programs, but it's really exceptional at BYU.
the only thing that we do is we, teach correct principles, and then we just have a bunch of girls that buy in and do it. So the credit goes to them. It's just amazing how close that these girls are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just on the court, but it's off the court. And it's not that they spend 24/7 with these girls. I mean, there's a lot of time during season that they spend. Some of them room with other athletes. Some of them room, with teammates, but they're all close.
Yeah.
And they love playing with each other. And that's kind of one of our principles is look, there's joy in volleyball. There's joy in having fun.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about competing is fun, learning is fun, and on top of that, they get to do it with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And they've really bought into that, and they truly, truly love each other.
Yeah, no, it's very apparent. And I think too, as an athletic department as a whole, you have the BYU network, which is amazing. But, talk to us about the interminglings between the different sports as an athlete at BYU.
Our administration does a good job at creating opportunities for our student athletes to interact. Maybe it's in a career fair type setting. Maybe it's a thankathon type setting, whatever it is. There's a lot of different things that our administration creates where they can interact. And so there's a lot of friendship across sports because of that. And, it's really good because we have over 600, athletes and over 30,000 students. And so sometimes you can feel lost inside the 30,000. It always come back to the 600.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good.
Yeah, no, that's neat. And just the bonds, I think one thing I've noticed, speaking with McKenna Miller again, is Heather, you seem to get really close with your team on just kind of that mental side of the game, and really, the pressures of playing in your conference and at the high level Final Fours that you have. I'm sure the mental side has at one point or another affected everyone on the roster. How do you and Heather go about helping them get through those pressures?
There's two sides of the mental side. There's the psychology part. We do have people up across the office that do that. And that's super important that we have that available for them. But then there's the performance side that you're referring to. And we have a mental strength coach, and his name is Craig Manning. He wrote the book, The Fearless Mind. He's currently he works with the Milwaukee Bucks. He works with Red Bull. He's worked with a lot of Olympians. So he's worked with a lot of different professionals where their main focus is to perform and to perform at the highest level. And so there's two parts that he kind of breaks it down. First is you got to be able to acquire skills, and that takes, mental focus, deliberate practice, being specific with what you're working on. And then there's also the performance side, which is accessing these skills that you've spent all these hours developing. Mm-hmm. Time and time again, you see people in big moments, they can't execute the skill that they've, worked so hard to build. And so he's worked with us. We meet with him every week as a team, and we're still doing that. And he, gives us one thing to work on each week that will help us, maybe control the controllable or stay in the present. Mm-hmm. Having a can-do mindset. Those are just three of the things that he worked with each of our players because those are what's going to really help us to perform in those pressure situations.
Wow, that's unique. That's awesome that you have him on staff. I think the other piece of it too is some of the academic pressures that may come up. How does the academic side of the institution help support the athletes as a whole?
BYU is no different with the majority of athletic departments in the sense that it's their number one priority to help them academically. And so they have all the resources that a player or an athlete would need in order to perform well in the classroom. And I think the biggest thing is just teaching them the correct tools or
Mhm.
best practices that help them be good students. And what you'll see is a lot of them correlate with how do you become a good athlete. There's a lot of similarities with how to become a good student.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think switching gears a little bit. So I think most people know that BYU is LDS. You know,
Mhm.
what role does that play in the volleyball program, and how does someone who is not LDS fit in?
We have the majority of BYU is LDS. When we talk about that 600 smaller group of athletes, the last number I heard was 24%
Okay.
non-LDS, so non-members. Um, and so there are definitely people that aren't members here. And personally with BYU, we love them. We love the diversity. We love, the main thing is we look for good volleyball players that also want to be good human beings. And so the thing that with BYU is we're a private university. And so we do have a code of conduct that they need to live by. But the way we look at it in order, you know, our goal here at BYU, volleyball or not, is to grow as a human being, grow as a student, and grow as a volleyball player.
Mhm.
And having this code of conduct really just allows our kids to focus on those three things and becoming the best that they can be. And so, yeah, we're a little unique in that way, but it's a huge reason why BYU has been so successful
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, you know, you mentioned that the girls like to live together and they're really close. When they're not playing volleyball, you know, on the weekends, you know, what do they do socially?
Um, you know, they just hang out. They hang out, they play games, they, you know, get in bigger groups. It's not just volleyball, it's maybe, you know, people from their dorms or in their neighborhood, and they just class and they just go bowling or they watch a movie or I mean there's so many different there's here at BYU, or I should say Provo, there's you know, axe throwing's become popular. We got
Right.
so many different things that they can do um, to interact and have fun. And so that's just kind of what they do is they find each other and go have fun.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous. I mean, you're so close to like Park City and some of the most amazing hiking and mountain biking trails in the world. All the lakes, all the camping. It's really a beautiful outdoor environment. And I might note that it's drivable from California.
Hmm.
Right?
It is drivable from California. Provo is I'm from Vegas, so it's about 5 hours and 15 minutes from Vegas, and then you add, depending on where you live in California, another 3.5, 4.5 hours from there. And so it's a day drive. You can get to California, and so it's really nice that, yeah, we don't have any beaches here unless you count the beach next to the lake, which I wouldn't, but um, if you need your beach fix, then you can go home for the weekend.
Yeah, you guys you do a lot of travel. You know you have an awesome conference. You guys are kind of all over. Talk to us a little bit about the travel, how that works, like a typical schedule during the season.
So during the season, let's say, so our conference has 10 schools. Um, 7 of the 10 are in California. So you've got us, Gonzaga in Washington, and Portland that are in other states. And then everybody else is in California, both in northern and southern. And so we go to California a lot. So a typical trip to California is we might leave anywhere between 11 and 2. We prefer the 2 o'clock. That way they can still go to classes
Hmm.
if we can find that flight, which we usually can. And then we fly there. We land. We get a quick snack. Then we'll go to practice in the gym. Then we'll have a dinner, and then we'll go, you know, to bed. And then the next day, so that's on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And Thursday we'll play. Thursday night, we might have a serve and pass either earlier in the day or right before the match. We give our kids time to work on school. So we give them a little study time, and we'll do lunch all together, and then we'll play. And then it kind of repeats again for Friday. We travel the next day, wherever that might be, and practice that night, and then play Saturday afternoon, which allows us time to come home Saturday night. So we are back, we sleep in our own beds and back for Sunday.
Sunday. And you travel with the whole roster?
We travel with 14 or 15 people.
Okay.
So it just depends on how many are on our roster.
Mhm.
This past year we had 18, we traveled with 15.
Okay. And one question I haven't asked any of the other coaches yet is the concept of a walk-on player versus a scholarship athlete. Every D1 across the country has walk-on players. Tell us a little bit about what a walk-on player is. Do the other teammates know who the walk-on player is, and are they treated any differently?
So a walk-on player, the big difference is scholarship and no scholarship. So these walk-on players do not get tuition paid for by the school. They do not get room and board paid for by the school. So they're coming out here and paying those things.
Mhm.
Other than that, everything else stays the same.
Yeah.
Treat them the same. Our players, I don't know how other universities are. Our players do not know who's on scholarship and who's not from us. Whether you're on scholarship or walk on, you still get the nutrition center. You still get, our fuel card, which is $9 a day, where they can, go and eat anywhere on campus. They all get, the travel is the same. We treat them the same. We play who is going to help us win, compete. And so that's really the only separation at our school is who gets tuition paid for and who doesn't.
Okay. And do walk-on players, kind of again, generally speaking, ever turn into scholarship athletes?
They do. They do. It's case by case. And sometimes it's out of the coach's hand that, we've already got these scholarships planned out years in advance, but there are occasions where, for whatever reasons, they can't get a scholarship.
Yeah, no, awesome. Okay, so, I think everyone has noticed you walking around the tournaments. You're a tall guy, maybe a little intimidating until you start chatting with you. But when you're out there looking, generally speaking, again, what type of an overall athlete do you feel stands out to you that would fit in well in the BYU roster?
There's a few things that we look at, us coaches. We love energy. Human beings only have so much energy. And if you can give some of your energy to your teammates through celebration and through effort, it's gonna be contagious. It's gonna help out your teammates. So we love energy. So that's a big thing. Obviously, if you're a hitter, we want somebody that can contact it high, or somebody that can hit it hard. Those are kind of the givens. And those are things that we do look for is, can you hit it high and hard with range? As a passer, we like, somebody that's, or I should say a libero, we like somebody that's fearless, somebody that, will, that can read the game well, that, can pass. But, these are all physical traits that we might be looking for. But there's other things when, I'm not walking around in these tournaments, whether it's talking with these coaches on the phone, or if you're old enough talking over the phone, trying to find out what motivates these girls, what is their drive, what is their why, what is their want to, what is their belief, because those are all the big things that really make a great player. If you've got all the talent and you don't have any of that drive, then you're just going to be average.
Yeah.
And if it can, and the drive can make up for a lot. So those are just some of the things that we look for as a total package. Yeah.
You know what I think you guys do amazing with is your social media. Talk about creating excitement. Like I get on Twitter just so I can see what you guys posted half the time. No, you do a really good job. And, that's one area I think athletes are having to get more and more creative with as well, is really helping everyone get to know them more personally through social media, especially during this time, since that's really the only way we have to communicate. Um, but no, great job. I love what
Thank
you
you.
said there.
I'll say that Johnny, our other assistant coach, is the one that kind of oversees that. Heather obviously gives some direction, has a lot of input. So most of the credit goes to those two. But one of the things that we do in a staff meeting is we ask ourselves, what can we do to tell the story so they can see the personal side of us as coaches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we do try hard to do that, and we're grateful that you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One other thing, traveling abroad. You've had a lot of success in your program with after college volleyball players getting to play professionally overseas.
Mm-hmm.
What about during their tenure at BYU? Do you guys plan? How often do you plan in a typical year to get overseas?
Just the NCAA rules say we could take one foreign trip every 4 years,
Okay.
and then it's just up to the school whether they take it. Here at BYU, we do. So we travel every 4 years. In 2016, we went to China, and that was awesome. We played some professional teams. We played some club teams, played some universities. So that was really cool. Before I got here, they've taken trips to Brazil.
So cool.
And so that was really cool. We had a cool one that's planned for this summer, but because of the coronavirus, we haven't been told yet, but it's looking like maybe we'll have to push it to next year, which will.
Okay. Oops. There we go. Will McKenna get to go?
I don't know.
We'll see.
See? Right now, we're worried about us trying to.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to make sure people know about BYU?
No, I think we've already covered it, but it's just a matter of it really is a special place here. I'm glad you asked that question, and you noted how close our team is as players on and off the court. That's a big deal, and a huge reason for our success is we talk about being a team player, and a lot of times people do it because they know that they think that's what's best to do, or that's what they're told to do. Our girls truly believe that playing together as a team and putting the team first directly translates to success. And they believe that, and they take heart of it. And so they love each other. They're just really close, and it's fun as a coach, and when they say stuff like that, you can believe them when they're saying it with a smile. It's pretty amazing to kind of see them interact. One of my favorite stories, real quick, is after we beat Texas in 2018 at home. Ronnie Jones-Perry was named the regional MVP, regional finals MVP. But while they announced it to the crowd, she was on an interview with headset on with the ESPN anchors. And so she didn't hear it.
Oh my gosh.
All of a sudden, you see our entire team run behind her and celebrating and cheering her. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. But it's just really cool. And I think it just shows how close our team really is and how we celebrate one another's successes.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a great story. I can't count the amount of times someone would get this amazing kill and turn to the setter or turn to Mary Lake and give them instant credit. It just, to me, it's like a very unselfish team, very much about the team, and it's really special. So it's really awesome. You know, I'd encourage people watching to go on to your website too. There's some great interviews with Heather, with, you know, with staff, some great virtual tours, you know, your school and all schools. But really, you know, you guys really display and give a great vision of what your school is all about. So great job. I've
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you
Um,
very much. Appreciate it.
yeah, you're welcome. And hopefully we'll all get back out there soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, you're good at this. You've done it
Oh,
a few times, and you've asked some great questions and have great segues, and you should be a reporter.
oh, hey, thank you. That's sweet. Yeah, maybe that's my next occupation. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
But anyway, well, thank you, David. Tell everyone hi.
I will. Thank you
Talk
very
to you soon.
much.
Okay, bye.
All right.